Let's jam the piercing nozzle right into the master bedroom of that mobile home over there. Which one? I like the chocolate brown one. Fine. And then what? Well, let's fill the whole room with foam, then maybe use the main nozzle to blow out all the windows, and, oh, by the way, can you set everything on fire? I don't see why not. At the Lake Superior College Emergency Response Training Center near Duluth, Minnesota, you get to do stuff like this all day. The instructors call it practice. It's more like the raw material of adolescent male fantasies. The college possesses plenty of stuff to set alight: a DC-10 mock-up, a half-dozen Cessnas and Beechcrafts, 3 Coast Guard helicopters, 5 buses, a Cadillac Eldorado, a railroad tank car, a Great Lakes cabin cruiser, and a nice selection of mobile homes, whose aluminum exteriors and flammable interiors comprise a reasonable facsimile of commercial aircraft. At least when they're on fire. This emphasis on aircraft accidents is no accident. The school specializes in ARFF training, that's aircraft rescue firefighting. Right now, the most delectable ARFF truck on the planet is the Striker, built by the Oshkosh Truck Corporation in Wisconsin. It costs $675,000. Think of the Striker as the Porsche 959 of fire trucks. For starters, all 6 of its wheels are driven. When airplanes crash, they don't usually stay on the runway, explains Capt. Rex Weber of the Minneapolis St. Paul International Airport Fire/Rescue Department. The Striker thus offers a 30-degree angle of approach and departure, and it can climb a 50% grade. It's designed to flatten trees and the standard chain-link fences that surround U.S. airports. It's 10 feet wide with a monster track that helps keep it upright even when it's leaning 30 degrees to port or starboard. By fire truck standards, it's also quick. The FAA requires that ARFF trucks accelerate to 50 miles per hour in 35.0 seconds, and that, from the moment the alarm sounds, the truck is capable of reaching the midpoint of the most distant runway in no more than 3 minutes. Which means the engine in this 40.05-ton Colossus is itself a whopper, 15.8 liters of Caterpillar inline 6 producing 650 horsepower at 2,100 RPM and an orbit-altering 1950 pound-feet of torque at 1,400 RPM, not much beyond a fast idle. The engine is rear-mounted, with a roof radiator as big as a mattress and a hydraulically driven fan that pulls cooling air from above. You don't want the motor in front, reminds Weber, because the action up there is gonna be warm. As it is, the Striker can idle hour after hour during a 125-degree day without overheating. This is a useful trait. During the 70 seconds it took to extinguish one particularly colorful practice blaze, a DC-10 engine fire, the truck's aluminum skin became so hot I couldn't hold my hand against it. The Striker's payload is a 3,000-gallon plastic reservoir, usually filled with water. There's also a 420-gallon tank that holds aqueous film-forming foam, essentially liquid dishwashing detergent. Combine the two and you have a slurry good for smothering fuel fires. This mixture can be blasted out of any of the truck's 3 spray guns: a 1,200-gallon per minute roof turret, a 300 GPM bumper turret, and a 250 GPM piercing nozzle. Pump all 3 simultaneously and you can drain the main reservoir in less than 2 minutes. Which is why most ARFF trucks attend crash scenes with nurse trucks right behind, refilling the Striker's main tank again and again from astern. The spray gun on the roof is affixed to an inordinately flexible cherry picker with a 50-foot vertical reach. Known as the Snozzle, it is an ARFF man's principal firefighting tool and can, all by itself, cost $150,000. Also at the Snozzle's tip dangles a camera that transmits images to the cockpit either in color or in infrared black and white. The infrared images allow the driver to see through smoke. This camera is so sensitive that it can tell whether a plane is taking off or has just landed simply by monitoring the heat in its tires. Its main purpose, however, is to scan a plane's fuselage to search for hot spots, usually cargo fires. If you find one, says Weber, You pry open a hatch and poke the camera inside for a look first, before sending a firefighter in. Of course, there may be no soul brave enough to open the hatch. That's when the $10,000 piercing nozzle comes in handy. It's 44 inches long and made of carbon steel, like the barrel of a gun. Its tip is perforated with 140-some holes the diameter of pencil erasers. Once this lance pierces the fuselage, which it does so easily that operators rarely feel it pop through, it sprays extinguishant in a 20-foot circular gush. The tip can also punch through masonry, clapboard siding, and the stainless steel flanks of railway tankers or fuel trucks. When you pierce the fuselage, notes Weber, you try to do it 12 inches above the windows, to avoid nailing a passenger. Course, if you can't find the top of the fuselage, well, you just hope no one's in the way. All three spray guns are controlled by joysticks in the cabin, whose 80 square feet of glass offers a frighteningly expansive view of any disaster unfolding before you. One joystick controls the cherry picker's movement, a second operates the bumper turret, and the third controls not only the roof turret but also what's coming out of it: water, foam, 460 pounds of potassium-based dry chemical extinguishant, or halotron. The latter resembles a dense fog and is deployed during minor cockpit fires in which you don't want to ruin the electronics. Halotron is bizarre stuff, weighing 92.3 pounds per cubic foot and costing $15 per pound. This fire truck carries $6,900 worth. The Striker is easy to drive. There's a push-button 6-speed automatic transmission, and with all that glass, you can look down and see curbs, which helps during close quarters maneuvering. The driver sits smack in the center of the cockpit, however, causing him or her to drive down the road with a third of the superstructure in the oncoming lane. With 17 inches of wheel travel, the ride is almost car-like. The acceleration, unfortunately, is not. You tend to flatten the gas pedal for nearly every occasion. The brake pedal is stiff and devoid of feel. It's easy to inadvertently engage the ABS in the final 20 feet of hard braking. Plus, you're often sawing at the steering wheel 5.5 turns lock to lock, even though there's 7 degrees of mechanical rear steer to lessen tire scrub in tight turns. By truck standards, the cockpit is Cadillac quiet, mostly because the engine is 30-some feet abaft. This serenity is important. Hustling to a crash scene, firefighters engage in intense radio discussions with ARFF dispatchers, the control tower, ground control coordinators, and, if possible, the stricken aircraft's pilot. At the Lake Superior School, ARFF students learn to approach a crash with the wind to their backs, to avoid smoke. They practice picking their way through debris fields, chunks of which are often on fire, meaning they'll usually activate the Striker's 3 undercarriage sprinklers. You get demerit points for burning your tires off, jokes Weber. If the crash isn't on a runway, the driver may also hit a switch to drop tire pressures from 72 psi to 25 psi. Next he'll set the bumper turret on an automatic 180-degree recirculating sweep, then drive toward the biggest chunk of remaining fuselage, as Weber puts it. On the way in, I first like to spray right along the spine of the plane's roof to cool things down, he adds. Radiant heat can kill as readily as flames. If the fire is fierce, drivers will also hit the deluge button to douse the Striker's windshield and nose with cooling water. What ARFF guys worry about most is the condition of the scene, Weber says. I mean, is the plane in one piece, 2 big pieces, 1,000 pieces, erect, upside down, about to burn, already burning? I recall an inverted plane that suffocated passengers not from smoke but because their faces were in the snow. We practice for all those scenarios. It's tricky even to know how close to get to a fire. My idea of the perfect distance, Weber deadpans, is when you melt the turn signal lenses. In addition to the Striker 3000, Oshkosh builds 4-wheel and 8-wheel drive versions, with prices ranging from $350,000 to as much as $1 million. The Port Authority of New York and New Jersey recently bought 22. Fortunately, Most ARFF trucks last for 15 years before they're replaced, usually because firefighting technology has changed, not because the trucks are shot. Most show fewer than 30,000 miles when they're retired. The most common color is safety lime yellow, seen here. The ARFF guys call it slime lime or phlegm. Airport firefighters can go a whole career without ever facing the big blaze for which they're trained. All, however, will eventually face engine fires, brake fires, smoke in the cockpit calls, and emergency standbys when landing gear or flaps fail to deploy. What's more, municipal firefighters regularly call on their ARFF counterparts to extinguish stubborn fuel fires, railroad tankers, overturned gasoline trucks, even the recent fire at the Pentagon, where Oshkosh built trucks from National Airport pumped foam extinguishant for 5 straight hours. My practice sessions in Duluth didn't qualify me to work a fire like that. If any brown mobile homes crash land on a runway nearby, however, I'm your man. Vehicle type, rear engine, 6-wheel drive, 5-passenger, 2-door truck. Estimated price as tested, $675,000, estimated base price, $350,000. Engine type, turbocharged and intercooled pushrod 12-valve diesel 6-in-line, iron block and head, Caterpillar engine control system with port fuel injection. Displacement, 964 cu in, 15,794 cubic centimeters. Power, SAE net 650 bhp at 2,100 rpm. Torque, SAE net 1950 lb-ft at 1,400 rpm. Transmission, 6-speed automatic with lockup torque converter. Dimensions. Wheelbase, 236.0 in length, 470.0 in. Curb weight, 80,100 pounds. C/D test results. 0 to 50 miles per hour 35.0 SEC.